Commercial Construction Coffee Talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David, of course, and I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation magazine. Actually, this was the last issue we printed back in August of 21. Now we're 100% digital. Had Mr. White Castle on the cover, one of their biggest stores that they ever built. But this was an awesome issue. Got JLO above me. There's Chris Mammoth behind me from the car wash. Got Tim Holton. I got the chicken guy above me. Got a great Asian restaurant coming up from the Northwest on my next cover, and Valor Hospitality for the next issue. And anyway, just some exciting things. Just had another 2.5 million people hit the website last month at the end of August, so we're cruising right along. And what can I say? SEC football, University of Georgia just crushed Oregon in the Dome, the Mercedes-Benz over the weekend, and Georgia Tech took it on the chin from Clemson. So listen, I'm a Yankee living in the South, so SEC football is just, it's king down here. Everything else is second class, even the Braves. So, but it was good to see the national champs win, and just all in all, pretty good Labor Day weekend. Kind of was rainy here, and but we like getting the water. We like keeping the lake full. So, but today a little overcast. Hopefully, we'll get the usual thunderstorm that comes in here 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and then it all clears out. I'd like to get out on the boat because it hasn't been run since last week. So hopefully, we can get things. It won't rain on me. And but anyway, I hope everybody had a great Labor Day weekend. I know I could have used an extra couple days, but I'll take the one day, to recharge my battery. We're coming into the end of Q3, and Q4 will be here before you know it. And 2022 will be over, and 2023, here we come. So hopefully everybody's got their batteries recharged from their holiday off, and getting excited for the fall season and the winter coming upon us. And obviously the midterms are there too, and who knows what's gonna happen. God, get them over with. Just move on. And so anyway, today I've got 2 gentlemen with a company called Cova. They do building products and sustainability. And depending on how the screen is set up, I've got Mr. Ken Gantert. He's VP, and he's out of just north of Austin, Libertyville. And I got Dan Sullivan out in the great city of San Francisco in the Bay. And gentlemen, say hello to our audience out there in Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
Hey guys. Hey Dave. It's a real pleasure to be here today. Thanks for having us. And
Ken, say hello from North Austin there.
Yeah, Dave, thanks for having us. We're excited to be on here today.
All right. Well, we appreciate you. Listen, your PR firm reached out to me, and I saw it, and I was like, ooh, building products. And right now with with product shortages and building and everybody trying to figure out, how they're going to, get projects done. I thought it was a very timely episode to have on there. So the way that this works is I do it in 3 sections. Each of you will just give us a short, bio on yourself, where you grew up, how many brothers, sisters, where you went to school, and how you kind of ended up where you were at, and together, at Cova. Then we'll talk about the roller coaster of the last 24, 30 months. Your lessons learned and how your company coped with it, and then you'll leave one positive thought or phrase with our listeners, your contact info, and then we'll close the show out. So with that said, we'll start with Ken down in Austin. We'll let you have the floor. Tell us your story.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. So it's been an interesting and adventure full of wild turns to get here, right? So I did not start my career in construction. So let me back up. I was born and raised in San Jose. So I spent the first 20-something years of my life in San Jose, San Jose State graduate, and then decided that it would be a great idea to move to Delaware for 4.5 years. And so I've had the opportunity of working on semiconductors, capital equipment for flat panel display, fuel cells, all kinds of different things, and with a key overlying background of fabrication, right? Supply chain fabrication, value engineering, and those types of things. And so when I was out in Delaware, I got the opportunity to go work for a curtain wall company that had just started. And the funny thing was, when I got the call from a recruiter, I had no clue what curtain wall was. Not until I started thinking it was something completely different until I went and through the interview and saw the factory, and what, just started falling in love with it. The fact that, you're going to work on this 1,000-foot tower with this unique bespoke design, and it's fabricating, and it's, strategic sourcing from all around the world. And that all that's just started to fall in. And, I ran my time in the East Coast, enjoyed the snow, and said needed to get back to a little bit warmer weather. And
so were you in Wilmington, Newark? Where were you in Delaware?
I was in Newark. So I was right over, really close to the Maryland border, but right next to the university. And so definitely enjoyed the brewery down in southern Delaware too. That was the highlight of the state.
I'm originally from Philly, so I had a good, because some of my best friends I went to prep school with who were from, we call them the Delaware Posse, and they were from Newark, and I had some wild times on Rehoboth Beach, at least the ones that I remember. And I know you're a San Jose guy, and the ride down from San Francisco to San Jose down the coast is freaking awesome. And And I know in San Jose, they've got the boardwalk there. It's kind of like the Atlantic City boardwalk, but on the ocean. And then driving back from San Jose back to San Francisco through the hills, it's just beautiful. So
it is. And with all the traffic, you have plenty of time to admire it. So it's, it's perfect for that. So, just headed out to Arizona and spent some time in Phoenix, and I got an opportunity to, at first work on satellites out there. So again, just a diverse background before ending up with a construction company. And, just really realized that construction materials, there's a huge passion for it. And so, as that ride came to an end, ended up over here with Cova. And, it's been a fun adventure ride. Definitely diverse background, different learnings, but all of it kind of leading to where we are now.
Awesome. Dan, you're up. Tell us your story.
Well, Dave, I know you're a northerner living in the South, and I'm a New Englander living on the West Coast. So we have that in common. But I grew up in Attleboro, Massachusetts, which is closer to Providence than it is to Boston. Both
I was going to say it's out.
And culturally, but interestingly, it used to be known as the jewelry capital of the world. So, my grandparents emigrated from Quebec, Canada, to work in the jewelry factories, and that kind of started our time in New England. But and I know you're a sports guy, Dave, and I did not play team sports growing up, but I was a swimmer. So
nothing wrong with that. You know?
Well, Ken had the illustrious, baseball career, and I was toiling away, working on my stamina, working on my persistence, thinking through all the world's problems as I did laps in the pool. But
hey, when I went to prep school, I went to this place called the Petty School. It was in central New Jersey. Anyway, it was like one of the top swim teams in the country. And all the swimmers, they would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. They have to do laps in the pool, have the donuts on, and build up, eating pancakes and all that, because then they had to get in the pool in the afternoon. But I mean, some of these guys were all on the Olympic team. That it was an unbelievable. So when I went in there, I was a hockey player. And ended up hockey lacrosse there, but they came in there. It's like, oh, we're building the hockey program, but our swim team is. So if you were a swimmer and you were on that team, you were like God on the campus. Well, we were a small school, 500 people, but they would take on all the big Goliaths, Yeah. And so I have all the respect for a swimmer. Okay, you're a SEAL.
I appreciate that, and that 5 a.m. stays with you. It sure does.
I'm thinking 4:30 those guys, because and let me tell you, in the middle of New Jersey, in the middle of winter, it's freaking cold getting in there. It's not a heated pool, And one other thing, my parents were jewelers forever. I got GIA certified, and after 50 years, they finally shut the business down. But I used to, when I'm on the beginning of my publishing career, I was on a display magazine before I went out on my own. And I used to call on Cutler Display, the boxes in Providence. And in that whole little area, there were a bunch of, jewelry guys that, were doing that kind of stuff. So when you said that, I was like, oh God, man, I'm going back to my GIA days, so.
Yeah. It's in the water there. So.
Oh yeah. Definitely. So,
Yeah, so after high school, did my undergrad at Berkeley in architecture, then did my graduate work at Harvard again in architecture. So while Ken doesn't have the construction background, mine's pretty straight up architecture all the way across. Although, once I left there, I didn't really practice architecture in any traditional sense. I kind of went right for the research, like the interesting meat, like what's happening in the industry. How can we, change the way that we build? So that led me to 6 years at Google, working at the R&D lab for the built environment, which is actually where I met Ken. I was his customer, put him through the ringer more than once. and kind of crazy, he still wanted to work with me after we decided to go out on our own together. So yeah, all in all, picked up a lot of really valuable things along the way, including Ken. So
did you guys start Cova, or was Cova already there, or how's this kind of set up between, you guys are both VPs, correct?
Yeah, so we started this version of Cova together. So what was great, Dan, he was joking but serious. I mean, and when you meet a talent and a brain and thought as powerful as Dan's, you better be on your A game, right? Like, a lot of customers, you can kind of skirt your way around things. It only gets worse if you try to do that with Dan, because Dan sees right through it, picks it up. He's like, hold on, that doesn't make any sense. And now you're stuck out there on the pirate plank all by yourself, trying to figure out how to walk off of it. So it's, it was one of those things. We had 3 years together of, customer, supplier, but also just developing a friendship and a big level of trust. And we got to the point where, like, hey, let's go do this. Opportunity came up. We said, let's go do this. And so we went after it. And the good news is that it's worked, and we're having a lot of fun doing it. And it's Cova's a lot of things to a lot of people. And there's a lot of really good background to it. And we just see ourselves as the shepherd for taking this version of Cova and really blasting it up into the next levels.
Sustainability. My family. I come from a construction military family, but anyway, my family on my mom's side, we've had our recycling business called Pollock Steel. It's outside of Philly, but we've been in business since 1888. So we were dealing with recycling, and as one of the boys in the family in Philly, you get your license at 16, and bottom line is you had to go into the scrapyard and work. So I did everything from acetylene torches, laid railroad tracks, cut down asbestos. Before mesothelioma and all that was even known. I did have to take the showers to the end to get the lead off me. So I was practicing some OSHA stuff there. So, but I grew up there, playing on the cranes and all, the construction site. So. It's just, and my father's side was in manufacturing. So I did my retail background at Levitt's, and we were, building upholstery, so it's so funny how things kind of circulate back to where now I'm in construction. I build a magazine. I'm just not building, buildings and stuff. So, but I'm still, even though I'm digital, I'm still doing, I've got editorial, I've got this, I got that. And you guys kind of are on that same thing. And there's nothing like being entrepreneurs, going out on your own, rolling the dice, and making things work. So hats off to you, from going from the corporate world to you guys your own gig. I love entrepreneurs, visionaries. It's all about the journey.
That's right.
So let's talk about over the last 24, 30 months. You look back at early 2020. Cranes all over the place, construction's booming, March comes, everything gets shut down. It's supposed to be a couple weeks, couple months, and then here we are 30 months later. We're basically coming out of the country opening up. You got labor shortages, people can't find PMs, superintendents. Mostly all the GCs that I talk to are freaking, they're turning business away because they can't get the labor or the help to get jobs done. My wife's an interior designer here, and she's just swamped. She just went out to do another estimate, on I think it's another basement here. So in the ATL, so the looking back as where you were and then going through the roller coaster over the last 24, 30 months, talk about how your company kind of survived or made the adjustments, and what you learned that some of our listeners out there in Commercial Construction Coffee Talk would find of interest and maybe be able to apply to their own businesses.
I think roller coaster is the right word to really describe it, right? And it's this combination of labor shortages around the world, factory shutdowns, shipping delays, port delays. I mean, you just name every possible thing that you could see thrown at it has been thrown at it. And so it's been a lesson in being adaptable, being flexible, right? And how do you align your supply chain, and then also have the backup cases? But how do you align your supply chain to insulate yourself as best as possible, right? Whether it's logistical delays, labor shortages, raw material shortages, geopolitical issues. I mean, you name the checklist, right? And we've gotten to experience them in some shape or form over the last 2+ years. And so that changes the game a little bit, right? Because if you just take January 2020 and earlier, the name of the game was go to China and get it as cheap as possible and ship full containers and be ready to go. Have really lean inventories and JIT delivery, and that's a lot of that's gonna as everything starts to level out over the next year plus, you'll see some of that. But I also think that everything has changed now in some level of permanence, because you're not going to see just going back 100% overseas, right? You're going to see the Western Hemisphere take a much bigger role in fabrication and manufacturing. And so I think that's, from a supply chain perspective, it's just adapt and see ahead. We were really lucky that as we were able to do this and get going, that we actually said, hey, we need to realign our supply chain to the Western Hemisphere. Right, so we have a heavily dominated Western supply chain for this, and so while we may not have the ultimate lowest cost item in every category, what we can tell you is if we tell you something's going to be there in 6 weeks, it's going to be there in 6 weeks, right? And we don't have to deal with the port delays of LA and Oakland, and what I'm sure will swing over to the East Coast, right? Because they always seem to alternate between each other, and so from that standpoint, you really start to realize the true value of on-time delivery and nearshoring, onshoring, whatever term you want to use for it. So, yeah, I think from the supply chain perspective, that's one. And I think, and Dan can dive a lot further into this one, but, we talk about the pure labor shortage in the field. We have to stop thinking about construction costs being 50-50, 60-40, right? Because, how often do people say, oh, that's a $100,000 scope, so you probably have 50 in labor, 50 in material, right? Or 60 in material, 40 in labor. And you have to start thinking about, how do I get this closer to 70-30 or 75-25, right? And if you're defining the material cost also as any factory labor, right? Or offsite labor, right? So we take the offsite labor, factory labor, and lump that into material cost. How do you get the true cost of construction closer to 75-25 and then 80-20? That's how you solve specialized trade labor shortages. That's how you solve building times, right? And especially if we ever end up in a situation where we have to talk about, reduced workforces on sites in order to promote distance and spread out and not have people piled on top of each other. Now you're talking about, well, if you have less people on site, you either have to extend the cycle of construction or figure out how to take that work that was going to be done there and move it off site. And so, Dan can really dive into that on some of the stuff we're working on, but that's been a big focus for us. Is you're never going to make money on a job site with the labor. It's just, how close do you get to your original estimate?
Yeah. And I think, Ken hit on a couple of important points. I think the other important point, just from a business operations perspective too, is, is really the issue of how you run a company in a partially remote work world, right? I mean, we made the transition about a year into the roller coaster, and we were kind of watching the tech giants. What are they going to do? We hear some saying it's remote forever. We hear some saying it's some were equivocating, but not ready to give up in-person work. And then of course later on top of that, you have a labor market where anyone who wants a job has a job. So managers are losing the leverage to be able to keep their teams in the offices as they're departing for lower cost housing markets, especially, leaving the Bay Area. A lot of people left here. So, companies really lost control of their collaboration and, thus their productivity. And I think most importantly, probably innovation. I mean, innovation for us is super important. Creating new products, doing things differently, being able to think our way through really, challenging logistical issues in the industry. But innovation is a really highly demanding activity, right? It requires us to be thinking hard in concentrated physical and mental context. We're sharing ideas, we're riffing on each other, developing each other's ideas. And then from an interpersonal relationship perspective, we're talking about, something that actually, depends on trust and vulnerability. And, what we found is that these things are not easily cultivated remotely. So, learning for us is that we've begun to pull our core creative functions, product, research, marketing, back to in-person work, back to the Bay Area, back to our physical research lab, which is right behind me. I'm sitting in the parking lot right now. And we're only hiring locally. We don't require people to come in to work every day, but we want dedicated in-person collaboration days. And, in just a short period of time, like that proximity has really catapulted our productivity and made our innovation way better. So, I think the learning here is that, for a lot of our core functions, in-person work is absolutely essential.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
It's true. You forget, we've all forgotten or become muted to the value of a cold beer in person, right? It's like, before January 2020 and earlier, you just like, oh, hey, you want to go grab a cold beer, or oh, let's do a happy hour, right? You just like, it pops up on the calendar and you go and you don't think about it. But a lot of bonds and relationships and trust and everything are built there. And now for a lot of us, we're our first wave of hires were spread out across the country. So to go do that, it's getting on a plane and it's going out and doing it, right? And it's one of those things where, airfare is much easier to go through now, and air travel is a lot more open than it was, just a little bit ago. And so that's great. But the value of having dinner and sitting down with your team members, and next month we're bringing our whole team into Austin, and we're going to have everybody together in the same room for the first time since December of last year. Right. It's going to be very interesting how many times somebody goes, I thought you were taller, or like, wow, I thought you were shorter. Like, just because you see like a shoulder view up from people and you have no idea. Right. And sometimes sarcasm isn't very well conveyed over Zoom or Teams, but, you get to actually spend time with people and build that relationship. And so, there is nothing like in-person work, and we're going to continue to build out in the Bay Area and in Austin, and, creating micro hubs for Cova, just because we need to be able to roll our chair backwards and say, what do you think of this? Or what about this? It's the onboarding for the people that we have hired local has been so much accelerated just by even a couple weeks in person every day.
Through the, when I was going to do one podcast a month. And then when, everything started, I did one a week. And everybody I've talked to, went in waves, but you could be a building owner, general contractor, architect, vendor. The bottom line is that as you guys are owners, of your own firm running it, that everybody was worried about, okay, am I going to be able to keep the company culture? How am I going to collaborate? Are we going to be productive? Some people can't work at home. They got to be in an office and those kind of scenarios. But I'll tell you, most of the people that I talked to over the last 30 months, that they've had probably the best years of their company. They've learned how to trust their employees, and some have come back to the office. Others have done kind of a hybrid gig like you guys are doing, and others have maintained like this. Like Zoom was prevalent before this whole thing started, but it's not going away. now and said, okay, I'm not going to drive 2 hours for a 15-minute meeting. I can do it on
Right.
Zoom. You're going to
That's
pick
right.
and choose where you're going to do those in-person things that are there. And I know people say, oh, I'm so sick of Zoom, but they're doing it all day. And I get it. And like myself, I was a print face-to-face guy. And I was lucky. I had my event in January of 2020, my 10th anniversary summit. I was a print guy, but I had a digital magazine for forever. Thank God I had it. And then I had to make the decision, okay, what am I going to do? I put my March, April issue out. And, you know, if you didn't have a Gmail or a cell phone, you know, how are you going to get in touch with your customers? You know, half of my circulation was laid off, furloughed. The offices weren't open. I had to fight with my printer. Hey, they're not even going to deliver the magazine I'm going to print. It's going to be a waste of money and postage. And then I sat back and like, okay, what am I going to do? My editor and my artist like, let's go digital. We, you know, have it. Then, you know, and then I found out I had 15,000 pages of content and all this stuff. And we went monthly, and I never had 2.5 million people hitting my website. You know, it was, they were looking at the magazine. Now, you know, down the road, I mean, my son, he works for Boeing. He's on the flight line working on 787s, and he went to aviation mechanic school, and he doesn't even know what a magazine is. He wants to see, look at it on his watch or on his you know, on his phone or his pad or whatever. He doesn't even know what a magazine was. So when it came down for our last issue, we were doing our media kit, and I was like, oh, let's just do it now. We'll just be done with it. I still have a print on demand. I can still print the magazine if you want it, or you get reprints. But going digital, it was scary proposition. You know, getting rid of, I'm 22 years of printing of a magazine, and then you no longer have that physical piece. But now, oh my God, I mean, it's just, you know, I don't miss the post office. I don't miss the printer. I mean, I liked all those guys. You know, but now I was bi-monthly. Now I'm monthly. So when I do an issue, I don't have that buffer in between, which I loved. 2 weeks later, I got to close the issue again, and I'm doing with the same people. But we were kind of all virtual already, so I kind of, you know, I was working out of the house, and I, you know, before when the economy fell off the cliff on 08, I had, you know, 14, 16 employees. I had 4 magazines and an office. Now I'm just, you know, it's amazing, you know, what I love. But I'll tell you, everybody learned so much about their companies over the last 30 months of, you know, not only corporate culture and so forth, but just learn how to run their businesses more efficiently. I think that's probably one of the biggest thing that I've seen, whatever you were, you know, building owner, architect, engineer, contract, developer, real estate, you know, vendor. But, you know, you as being, you know, you talked about real estate. That is probably one of the biggest issues that I think that companies have, is getting their people to come back. Like, people want to go to rock concerts. They want to go to the beach. They want to go to baseball games. They want to go and have that beer. They don't want to come back to the office. They want to work out of their house. And how do you, you know, you have a couple options. You can hire offshore, but you're not going to have that, you know, culture. You can, and so these are the things as owners, you don't want to alienate your force, but you also want to have that innovation, like with you guys with building products, you need that. And so, you know, it's kind of like, you know, damned if I do and damned if I don't. And, you know, the real estate market's a very interesting market right now, because there's a lot of open space. A lot of people have given up their leases. And something, you know, in our industry, that's a good thing, because someone's going to do something with that space, and it's going to get re-renovated, whatever it might be. That's new fixtures, new construction, you know, new projects. You know, it's just like when a hurricane hits. It's a terrible thing, but all that stuff's got to get rebuilt. Someone's got to come in and take it out. Someone's got to, you know, so it, you know, in retail, they're always going to redo their stores every 3 to 5 years. They've got to maintain them. They, you know, they got to keep a fresh look, because competition is fierce. Same thing with the hoteliers during the close down. Underneath the radar, when their hotels were closed, they were putting in fresh paint. They were putting in new FF&E. They were putting in new carpet. So when things did open up, the smart ones, they were ready to open, you know, for that. So you guys are right on the even keel, like with everybody else as businessmen and, you know, people out there, that you're thinking along those same lines. Talk about some of your products that you kind of deal with. You know, what are some of the cool things that you've you know, innovated over the last, you know, 24, 30 months?
Yeah, so I'll take the first couple and then have Dan cover our connect category because that's his bread and butter and a ton of brain power behind it. So I mean we really divided our company into three product categories. We've got construct, connect, and then components, right? And so construct is we're doing a ton of work in construct right now, and that's our exterior facade components and a lot of the heavier duties, so glass rail, unitized garage screens, window wall, curtain wall, storefront, those types of aluminum windows. And so for us, we think that's a real bread and butter for us. We've got an extremely robust supply chain. We've got some fantastic product designs behind it that vary from lighter weight aluminum residential windows all the way up to we're working on a casino in Virginia right now for unitized curtain wall, and so we really span the whole spectrum. And so for that, it's great because when we go to a GC or to an owner, we can say every single piece of glass on this building we will pick up. You don't everything from your residential frameless mirrors all the way up to your unitized curtain wall, we got you. And so they can just take that whole scope and go, great, one person's got this. It's all coordinated. You don't have multiple people trying to go in there. On our component side, this is for us is really a material only play, and it's a supply chain optimization play. And so we've got Kova plumbing fixtures, that whole line, shower enclosures. We've got we're now turning on Kova light fixtures, so that'll be out there, and those are really going to be focused. The Kova branded ones will be focused for in unit, and then we have partnerships with our supply chain to handle the site lighting, hallways, common spaces, etc. So we're going to have the baseboard and trim, quartz countertops, and so what this does is we're looking at how do we optimize. Let's hit the material categories we know we're going to be successful in. We're not going to say we go do everything. While we do a lot, we're not going to go do everything because we're not going to be successful in everything, right? What we want to make sure is that this is our core. This is what we offer. We're going to go succeed at it, and then we're going to keep growing and expanding. But I think some of the best innovation we've gotten, Dan, if you want to hit it, is the connect, right? I think this is stuff that's going to be out soon. It's going to be a huge impact on the market.
Yeah. So if construct is the core and shell of the building, and components are the things that the human beings touch, connect is really all of the products, the kit of parts that actually comprises like the whole interior build. So to the point about what do we do about this glut of office space once a lot of people move out of it. If we had premeditated that the use of the building would change over time and outfitted the interior of the building with flexible systems, we could actually be reconfiguring those things on the fly right now with very little effort, and converting them to new uses to be used as housing, for example, in a place like San Francisco where we have pretty serious housing crisis. So with this construct category, we're really saying the future is uncertain, and we're setting you up for success in the future by providing you with flexible tools. So flexible walls, flexible rooms, flexible mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and that's the starting point, really. And then, whatever else we glom on to those products as for auxiliary uses. So so that category is actually really exciting for our group, and really rounds out the offering from the core and shell to the components.
Yeah, and I think the big thing there is when people hear flexible, they think that they're sacrificing something in order to get the flexibility, right? And you're not, right? From an acoustic perspective, you're not going to notice the difference, right? From a finish attachment perspective, you're going to be able to have that same wide range of portfolio of finishes that you'd be looking for on a traditionally constructed wall, right? The advantage now is you own the wall. You can move the wall. You can take the wall with you, right? You leave one office space and go to another, back up the U-Haul and take it with you, right? So I think from that, it's flexibility, but without the sacrifice. That's really one of the keys, because there are other flexible solutions out there, but they all suffer in some area or another. Day two moves, day two usage, acoustics, cost, right? I mean, that's if you think about it, how many jobs go in with, say, demountable partitions spec'd, and then by the time the thing gets built, the GCs eat them out to a gyp wall because it was too expensive, right? And so, that's what we're excited is. We're excited to have to offer flexibility without sacrifice, right? At an affordable cost point.
It's always good to keep your core. It's like, being a restaurant, you've got your core stuff, but then you might dabble into some other, innovations or, new appetizers, call whatever you want. But that's the way I kind of look at you guys as, you're like a restaurant, you've got your core menu, and then you kind of, as you innovate, you might come up with some of these other ideas as things evolve. And it's amazing. I was talking, I remember, last year I was talking to a theater chain. Theaters, depending on what state you're at, some were open, some weren't. They were trying to figure out, what they were going to do. They, drive-ins were a thing of the past. Now they've come back. But one of the most amazing thing is that even through this roller coaster over the last 30 months, retailers, hoteliers, the commercial side, they were always getting rid of buildings, building new ones. It's like you read the newspaper, oh, so-and-so is closing 20 stores, but you read 4 or 5 paragraphs down, but we're opening up 10 new ones. And so this, I think, was a real catalyst of getting rid of some of that dead weight in the real estate. Now they've just got to become innovators like yourself and figure out, hey, what do we want to do with this? And how are we going to fill it? And obviously, we put a multifamily section in our magazine last year because we realized it was like one of the hottest markets. Same thing with cannabis. It's like the wild, wild west. Once it gets, legalized all over the country and defederalized, I should probably say, I know here in Georgia, all the farmers down there between Savannah and Macon are waiting for it, and boom, and so and everybody thinks that cannabis stores are like they're like jewelry stores. They're beautiful, and so everything's just been kind of pushed up in a new, you're not in third gear, you're in sixth gear going, 80 or 90 down the highway. And that's the kind of way that I look at it. But I love innovators, your core business, and you dabble, and it's good. And it's very cool that, that you got the local talent that you can find in there that you can bring in, and then kind of, figure out, hey, hey boss, this would be a really cool thing. What do you think? So, and being able to do that in person, I think is in person, you can't replace it. You just can't.
Yeah, agreed.
So you really can't. Dave, I'll throw out one more thing for you there, because you just tied together like 3 different things all in one. So we'll give a little sneak peek surprise. So we are adding a new product, and since you just mentioned a few different things, so we are coming out with a Kova insulation with a hemp byproduct from it. And so it's a green insulation. It's one of our bolt-on products that we're going to be offering as we really are attacking the building envelope and going through. And so that's going to be coming out later this year. So since you just tied together like 3 things, innovating and some different crop approaches, and so that'll come out this year. And so it's true. You have to find, when you look at it, you have to find things that are available, right? You may look at it's like you take a box of Legos and you dump the Legos out on the floor. Well, how can I take with these Legos that I've got and make something that helps change the market, right? And helps adapt the market and move it. And I think that from that standpoint, that's one of my favorite things working with Dan on, right? Is we come from totally different approaches, totally different like thought processes, educational backgrounds, all of it. Sometimes
hey, opposites attract. It's the best.
It's true,
that
right?
Is exactly right.
It is, and it's fun, right? Because we'll start and we just get going and get into a good rhythm, and we had 3 years of that leading up, so we've got some shorthand language, and like when we look at each other funny, we know what that funny look means. So it's a lot of fun, and we think that's going to lead to some really cool stuff for Cova.
Well, when you launch that new hemp installation project, you make sure that your PR guys send me a press release, and we'll post it up on the web for you guys. So
absolutely.
So as we finish up here, each one of you, I always ask my guests, if you leave one positive thought or phrase, what would it be for our audience out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk? Dan, I'll let you go first.
All right. Well, I imagine Ken will lean into his MBA and take the business lesson. So I'll lean into the human lesson, which I think we're in an interesting place in history right now, right? I mean, we're in a world of increasing pressures, financial, environmental, political. And I think it's just really important, especially, as we talk about, work and life and, the challenges of the roller coaster, that human resilience is really at, the core of what we do and who we are. And so I think, collectively, we can believe in creating objects, products, processes that make life better for humans. And we can, put that in our sights and we can achieve that. So, and then from a company perspective, I think, we can also believe in investing in trust and vulnerability and personal accountability. I mean, these are not scary words, and we can talk about them. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess words of wisdom, I don't know if I have any, but
hey, resiliency, I love it. Right? Be resilient.
Yeah, I think it's a great one. Or, have an inspiring vision for the world you want to create, and, and work with people who share your vision, and invest in those people, invest in the humans, that create those really critical, important, amazing outcomes.
Hey, I was on LinkedIn before the Labor Day weekend, and I said, hey, everybody, you earned it, and you're resilient. You're still standing. Okay.
There you go.
So there, pat yourself on the back, because it's been a wild ride the last 30 months. Every day I tell people every day I get up, by the end of the day, I'm so drained between business, personal, politics, trying to get things done. I'm worn out. It's like I'm battling every day. I probably swam, I don't know how many freaking miles, so in the freezing cold pool in the middle of winter in my Speedo.
Right.
All right, Ken, what's your lesson, your positive thought or phrase you want to leave?
Yeah, I mean, just know whatever anybody's doing, it's tough, right? I mean, it's not easy, right? Everything, whatever task, function, job, thing you're trying to do, it's tough. And, really give yourself credit, because you got a lot of the answers and the tools there. You just may have to look at a different way of putting them together, right? Just reorganize it and reorder it. And it's, just keep going and just keep trying, because there's no, somebody may say no, the next person may say no, may get an idea shot down, but you're going to get there, and just keep digging. That's all you can do.
Hey, when it gets tough, the tough get going, and they're going to be resilient too. So I can tie it in both of you, even though you guys are opposites, you're like the odd couple, so, but hey, I love it. I like get her done. Just get her done.
There you
so
go.
Resilience, tough get going, get her done. All right. Well, listen, if anybody out there in our audience, our listeners out there in Commercial Construction Coffee Talk, if they wanted to reach out to Cova, what would be the best way to reach out to your team or yourselves? This is your chance to give your contact info.
Yeah, I think that the easiest, it's a closely monitor inbox, sales@covaproducts.com. Even if it's not really a sales inquiry, that's the best generic way to get a hold of us, and we all keep an eye on it. It's closely monitored around the clock. We'd love to get conversations going with people, whether you've got ideas, want to work on innovations, you've got some building materials needs, we're here, and we want to be a productive part of the industry, right? And a good partner.
Yeah, and I would also say, I mean, I think LinkedIn is actually a great resource too. Like, reach out to us on LinkedIn. I think it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us to really create the revolution that this industry needs to be healthy and sustainable. And we want to work with people who are like-minded. So, let's connect. So,
if anybody wants to reach me, I'm at davidc@ccr-mag.com. I know all you listeners that listen to us, you've heard me say it a million times. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win the lottery. If you don't send me something, I can't look at it. Listen, their PR firm reached out to me. I ran a press release for them, and one conversation, a couple of emails, boom, here they are on the podcast. So listen, I'll find something. So if you have a cool project, if you got a charity golf tournament, you got a new product coming out, send it to me. I look at everything, and we'll find a place for it. And content is king. And we love Google, And we built our SEO strictly on content, and the more the merrier. It's a win-win. So send it to us, we'll promote you, and hopefully people will see it, out there on the wild, wild web. So gentlemen, what a great conversation. We got Rehoboth Beach, we got Attleboro, Mass, we got the jewelry gig on, we got the swimmer, we got to get the beer, we got resilience, we got the tough get going, get her done. It's been awesome. Unbelievable. So
Yeah, this is great, Dave. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. And thanks for doing what you do out there.
yeah.
Yep.
So everybody out there, listen, it's September. You got Halloween coming up. You got Turkey Day, Thanksgiving, and then you got Hanukkah, Christmas, and boom, New Year's. And this year is going to be over and close the books on 20 days. So, do your best, finish strong, keep that momentum going. Stay positive, smile, have some laughs. If you're out there on the construction site, make sure you're staying hydrated, and most importantly, staying safe. So with that said, Dan, say goodbye from the Bay Area.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be here, Dave. Thanks so much.
And Ken, say goodbye from North Austin, Libertyville.
Yep. Thanks, Dave. It's been great. We look forward to talking to you again soon.
And I'm going to say goodbye. Sugar Hill, just below the Lake Lanier and the Beaufort Dam, about 30 miles north of downtown Atlanta. And everybody, listen, have a great end of Q3 and go into Q4, and have a great rest of the year. And we will see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. I look forward to seeing you guys when I get back out on the road, meeting you in person. No fist pumps. I'm shaking your hand, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Dave.
Have a great rest of the day. We'll talk to you.
You.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
See you.
Dave.
Bye.